I'm Mel Stewart, and this is SwimSwam Podcast. Joining me today are two great men. They're going to help us do something that is historic. Today, we are going to unpack and demystify the International Swimming League Draft, the first professional swimming draft in history. Today, we have Konstantin Kudryaev, the CEO of the International Swimming League, also the god of fin swimming. We're going to unpack that title a little later. That's a fun story. We also have Apostolos Sagarakis. We call him Tolis. He's ISL's technical director. He's a former NC2A D1 swimming star, and he's also a two-time Olympian from Greece. The ISL Draft launches June 22nd, and there's a whole lot happening. Guys, you gotta stay posted on this, and if you want to stay up to date, probably the easiest way to do that would be on Instagram at iSwimLeague. Also put this on your desktop. isl.global. You can stay there and you can watch it. If you want to be really smart and you really want to dive deep at this moment right now, you need to press pause and you need to go to isl.global/ISL-draft-registration-final. And you can look at the full list of athletes who have signed up for the draft. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I think we have 940 swimmers, a little more. They'll explain that. But Konstantin, let's start with you. You got to be excited about how you started off.
And as a matter of fact, we, the team, because I think what I'm super excited about is to work at ISL, where we try to practice what we preach. The idea of the draft was conceived by GMs at the end of last season, and they got together and they basically figured out that in order to stay relevant and exciting and maintain the drama of the event, they needed to do something about not creating the risk of running super clubs and marginalizing the others. So then in December, we got together with the reinvigorated management team, and I think there will be a moment where we will unveil our extended management team. As I said, I'm very proud to be part of, and we discussed how the draft should actually be conducted, and I think the key word is engagement, and the second one is interactivity. So that's why we thought that it would be important that we deploy technology, social media, fan engagement, which are available. I mean, only the lazy wouldn't do that. And today, you can't continue driving looking in the back mirror. You have to stay relevant with the fans, and as I said, engagement is a key word. So we came up with the idea that we needed to have an interactive angle. And just to be specific on the dates, on 22nd June, which is an important date as well, especially in light of NCAA announcement and a cooling off period, which we described earlier, a few days earlier. GMs are going to announce first 5 names they aim to retain on their respective teams. And that would be done 1 week prior to the actual draft. The actual draft is going to be held over 2 days, 29th and 30th of June, where on, as it was described and as is described in the rules of the draft, we will go through the iterative process of first announcing the 15 swimmers that GMs are going to retain, and then through interactive vote by fans and also selection of the draft pool, where they according to the classic rules of the sport leagues drafts, let's call them the least successful teams will have, I don't want to call them the weakest ones because they're not, we have the cream of swimming, The least successful teams will have the right to choose the swimmers they want. And I think with that, I would like to maybe give the word to Tolles, who can walk through the specifics and the details.
Tolles, you can take it away, buddy.
Sure. Thanks, Konstantin. Well, Mel, like Konstantin said, we're launching on the 22nd of June by presenting for each team the top 5 swimmers that they want to retain from their previous rosters. That is going to be a week away from the actual draft on the 29th and 30th. Now, on the day 1 of the draft, we are going to represent, let's say, the first 5 swimmers that the GMs of each club selected the week before. And then throughout the day, there's going to be announcements of the other 10, or better say up to 10, because each team can select up to 15. Each GM can select up to 15 swimmers if they want. Therefore, they're going to choose the 10. And this brings us to a point where right before the fans starting to vote, we're going to have each GM, and this is a very historical moment, Mel, because each GM is going to pick 1 rookie from the ISL Draft pool, and that's going to be an exciting moment because that's the first ever rookies to be selected. Those 10 people are going to be the first in history, and the actual first one being selected by Aqua Centurions, that was the least successful team, like Konstantin said. They're going to pick the first one, and that's going to be a magical moment for that person. It's going to be the first one ever rookie to be selected in a professional swimming league's draft. Right after that, we're going to have the platform open for the fans to vote. It's going to stay open until day 2, right, a little bit before the day 2 starts. All right, and then right when we start day 2, we're going to announce those swimmers, that 1 swimmer per team that have been selected by the fans, and then that's where the other 14 rounds of the draft are going to start on day 2, where each team is going to select 10 swimmers.
And if you're out there listening and you're asking yourself, okay, how can I do this? How can I step up and play? If you want to be interactive, if you want to play, follow iSwim League, and they'll spoon feed you everything you need. Also, keep in mind ISL.global. I think that the fan engagement is everything in swimming. It feels like swimming as a sport. It feels like for the longest time, we never really had our own hub and our own network and our own. But with the rise of social media, I felt the full force of swimming, and it seemed like that was happening around 2005, 2006, 2007. So, with the evolution of the International Swimming League and arriving at this moment, I feel like I've been traveling through all of history to arrive at this moment right now, where you can really swim nerd out and play this. Now, there's you guys have some announcements, and you're not going to do it on the podcast because I know it's not really 940 swimmers that are listed on that URL I shared earlier. It's more, and there's a big announcement. Can you tease it at all?
All I can say is that there is a bunch of under 18-year-old swimmers, fast swimmers, that we're still in the process of making sure that everything is in place, the process is correct and proper, with their parents and legal guardians. So those athletes will be announced later. And then there is one swimmer that is a surprise to everyone in the swimming world. I can tell you that it's going to be announced before the draft, obviously. So give us 10 days, 10, 11 days, no more.
I don't know if I can wait that long. I'm going to try to find out. When this podcast is over, I'm going to ask, and I'll swear to secrecy. But I have to know. I have to know soon. You have to be pleased with this. We're in year 3. This is season 3, and I didn't feel the full force of where ISL has gotten until I saw that list, until I went over to the URL and I saw that long list of names. Just from a personal standpoint, in full disclosure, I should say this: Tolles was the first person that most of us in swimming media and you were the first person that told us about this and said, "Hey, this is coming," and keep your you made all the introductions. You've had a ground game for a very long time. I just, from a personal standpoint, How do you feel about that? About where you are right now?
I mean, I'm super proud. Like everyone is on our team. I was a swimmer. I've been through tough times and through good times in the sport. And like you said, like you've been waiting since 2005, 6, 7. I've been waiting, long enough. And I think this is the right time. The generation is changing, and I think it's the perfect time for something big like this to come out of our sport. Our sport, I think, has waited long enough for something this great to come out, and I believe that the athletes participating in the league in 2019, 2020, and 2021 and on should be proud of what they would have accomplished after they retire from the sport. This is for life. Like we've made the big change, so we should all be proud of.
From a personal standpoint, for somebody who's wanted this since the 1990s, I'll frame it this way. I'll say that I always wanted it. When it happened, I wasn't sure that it was going to happen that first year. I was convinced 5 minutes before the first telecast that it really wasn't going to work, and that it wouldn't even appear. I had so much anxiety about it. I wanted it so badly, but it was pure joy that first year, and it felt like, okay, as a sport, we've arrived. But I didn't feel the full power of it, and what it was going to do in terms of transforming the sport until last year, because last year during the pandemic, we had nothing. And it felt like the saving grace was the bubble. And it felt as though, wow, this is entrepreneurial. This is creative. This is a reimagining our sport. And it's been delivered at the hardest time in history of all people. So let's kick this back to Konstantin. Konstantin, you've got to feel a great responsibility, and because I know that you're part of the culture and you understand this, Konstantin, you have to feel a great responsibility heading into this third year, because there's been a lot of steps taken so far.
Yeah, well, I lose sleep over it, and I think to be honest, is the responsibility. It's not just my responsibility. I think every single person who's involved have responsibilities. And I have to give credit to the founder. He has a hell of a burden of responsibility. I have absolute respect for Gregoration. I think it takes balls and courage to start and to maintain and to persist. But here is the point, Mel. I think it's critically important that we become sustainable economically. And I think that's where, and it takes time, and it takes fan engagement, it takes creativity, imagination, and a lot of persistence. But I think it's worth it. Just for the record, I believe in the ISL as a business venture, and I make no qualms about that. It's fantastic that it's swimming. I feel a lot of. It's funny because when I finished my fin swimming career, I hope we're not going to go into that. I turned the page and I said, okay, fine. That chapter is closed. I need to move on to something else because there are exciting things to take, to explore and to challenge oneself. And I had a very successful professional career, very, very satisfying professional career. And I continue to enjoy that, actually. But then through force of circumstances, I came across that. And I looked at it from an angle of a business opportunity. And not to be misunderstood, because I believe that you have to stand on your own feet. And I think this is a tremendous enterprise. It's a fantastic venture, and I think it has all the ingredients to be successful. And to be successful, in my mind, it means to be sustainable, not to be sustainable through donations, but to be self-sustainable, to be autonomous economically. And I think it's a long path on which we embarked, and I think this fan engagement is a critical component of that. It
is a critical component. When you think about professional sports today, you realize that everyone is competing now against esports. They're competing against action sports, but esports, I guess, is the big player. And but you look at the NBA and you look at the NFL and you look at Major League Baseball. This is, of course, I'm looking at it through the lens of the United States, and ISL is global. But I like the way the NBA calculates their success, and it's not, and it's through what the fan, the viewer is the way they're interfacing with their sport now, which is it's social, and they're selling their social reach. And I think I saw the beauty of ISL in the first season is not necessarily telecast, which is what I appreciate. That's old school. I'm over 50 years old. That's the way I like sports. But I saw every single athlete as an ambassador, plus all of your social platforms, and I saw that reach as being enormous. And I saw it grow in the next year. And I do like the idea that I can go to the ISL, the hub, ISL.global, and I can stay engaged there on a daily basis. So this is going to be the fan choice is going to be our first step, where you're actually, people are signing up and they're on that newsletter and they're engaged with their vote. What is it? What do you see down the line in terms of engagement for the fans?
Yeah. So I think let's start from simple to more complicated. First, they would be able to obviously participate and enjoy the show of the draft. We're investing in a lot of time, resources, thinking into making sure that the draft is as spectacular, or let's say it's very difficult to match up the athletic performance of the ISL competition. So let me take a step back. As interesting as fun as experience itself as the ISL competitions. Now, the second thing which we had worked very hard on, and I think this year we are going to do that, we're going to deliver through our digital platform the entirety of the ISL season live. And as you and I spoke, I believe the sports is ephemeral. It's very, very important to see things as they happen. Of course, you can rewatch the iconic competition duel in the skins or whatnot. It's all there. It's all there for eternity on the digital platform and the internet. But I think it's very, very, for us in season 3, it's critically important that we can deliver to our global fans the entirety of the season live. And we're going to do it in partnerships with our broadcasters. And again, I don't want to jinx and I don't want to sort of jump the gun, but we will, there's nothing to jinx because we've agreed, but I don't want to jump the gun. We will announce our approach to delivering that content to our North American fans in particular. But I think that's it. But the other thing, again, I want to maintain the mystery, but there is a lot. The digital platform allows for so much. Your imagination is the limit. And gamification is the word, but again, I will stop myself. But fans swimming, fans of ISL will have a lot in store. And it takes time, it takes a lot of work, but I think we'll deliver. And I hope they're kind to us because, we're taking risks. And if things don't work out as perfectly as they should, I think the focus and the intention is there, and I think fans will enjoy it.
The interesting thing is that everyone that is a big fan, they all have their own ideas, and they can be critical in terms of what they think works and doesn't work, and sometimes they don't always take stock in the fact that something has been very successful. And maybe I'm used to that because I'm at SwimSwam. We really get deep in the weeds with swim nerds. But let's get deep in the weeds on the draft. I have some questions that I just want to be very specific about. In terms of fan engagement, in terms of this choice, is it going to be 1-to-1? Is it going to be choose from this set of 4? Can you just give me a little more detail? Like when I sign on and I can make my choice as a fan, what's that going to look like?
So let me just make sure that I understand the question. Obviously, you will have to choose among the swimmers which are who are available, right? So, as you know, and as was explained in great detail on the rules which we published on our website, swimmers have the choice to stay on the team or to be part of the draft. And I don't want to go into details of why a particular swimmer may choose not to be on a specific team, even if their GM would like to retain them, because it's just a matter of personal choice. But we would not want them to be in a situation where they are then drafted by the same team and recruited. I mean, this is not the Army, right? So the fans, therefore, the fans will have to choose among the swimmers who would like to stay on the team and who, for whatever reason, didn't make the selection of the GMs. Because, and I hope, Mal, you'll give the opportunity to our GMs to discuss with you their tactics, because as you can imagine, choosing 15 doesn't mean just let's select the top 15 scorers from the previous season. There is a lot of tactic, there is a lot of strategy in terms of how you want your team to be balanced in order to win the title. So we believe that as GMs announce their own selection, there will be some tactical choices to make. And all of that to say is that at the end of their choice, fans will have a choice to choose from among the athletes who wanted to stay on their respective rosters but didn't make the cut for whatever reason. So that's the only constraint we will put in them. So they wouldn't want to put somebody who was not there on the team where they didn't want to be.
I've heard from the athletes during season 1 and season 2, and on text messages and just from personal relationships. I'm not saying anyone's name, and we've also, just in terms of our general reporting, have come across stories, some things that we never report, but it's conversation, and it's athletes and their choices and how they feel about how the season's going and the teams that they're on. So we've heard reports of athletes refusing to be retained by their previous teams, and athletes that they really don't want to be signed by another team. How do you manage that?
Tolis, do you want to fill that?
Sure. I mean, it's important to point out again that swimmers have a choice. They have a choice not to remain on their teams, but this choice can only be made in relation to that specific team. So an athlete, a general manager is going to go to all the athletes of the team, say you want to be on a team next year. If the athlete says yes, everything is good. They go on a list. And I will explain a little bit more about this in a couple of seconds. But if they say, no, I don't want to be on the team, then automatically the general manager cannot select that athlete when they make their pre-selection of the 15. And then later on, during the draft process, they cannot draft that athlete because it will just be unethical and not fair to the athlete. So basically, the athlete, if they refuse to stay on the team, then they have another 9 teams to go to. At the same time, if they get chosen by a team, by, let's say, a non-preferable team to them, they do need to stay on that team for the minimum amount of time. In regards to the list, I wanted to just point out at this point that next week we will be having announcements every day. We have 10 teams and we have 5 days during the week next week, and every day we will have 2 teams announcing. Well, ISL will be announcing the list of athletes that are eligible to be pre-selected by the general manager and voted by the fans. So let's take a team. We're going to announce on Monday. This is the 30 athletes that this team is able to pre-select from, and then as soon as the pre-selections are announced, then the fans can choose from the ones remaining on that list. So the athletes that the fans are going to choose, they need to want to be on that team. They cannot choose an athlete that doesn't want to stay on the team. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yeah, and that's perfect.
I can only add one more twist, and I think, as I said, what we want to make sure is that you know that's explained in detail in our rules. But there are two categories of swimmers: rookies and veterans. Veterans are as close as you can get to free agent. Rookies are the ones who have to stay on the team for at least 2 seasons. And that's, for that there are many reasons, but we do want to create traction with teams, right? So who knows, somebody may decide to be mercenary all the time and maintain their permanent rookie status, therefore being drafted and selected to a new team every year. That's a choice. And somebody else might decide to take the game to a specific club where they feel in particular, particularly at home. And for GMs, there is, there will be an element of strategy again, because they, with the swimmers who are eligible for that, they would be able to sign multi-year contracts if they choose to do that. To do so. So, there's a lot of flexibility which is built in these rules, and there's been a lot of back and forth and discussions and strategizing and playing out various scenarios. It's not perfect. I understand and I appreciate that it's not as straightforward. And I would say even more, if certain things don't work, we'll change them. But we have to make that step. And I think we're making it. We're pretty happy with this, and then we will see how it works out.
For me personally, it felt like there was I don't know if this is entirely true, but you guys can tell me. It felt like there was a regional aspect to the teams. It felt like when in that first season, Americans were on American teams and Italians were on Italian teams, and does that matter? Or do you want it to be mixed and matched? Is there a regional is regional recruiting important?
Let me just, regional recruiting is important, but let's take a step back. I think it's very, very important that we look. ISL today consists of 10 virtual teams, effectively. You call them regional, but in fact they are regional, and you can call them by by cultural proximity or nationality, but we want to move away from that. The whole point of the league that is global. Having said that, it's another initiative that we are pursuing this year, and very, very strongly. We want those clubs to be physical. We want them to have a base. We want them to have deeper roots with the communities where they are present and operate. We want the fans to connect the name with the place. It's going to take some time. We are in the process of making sure that the place, the physical location of the club is appropriate, that the communities are aware of that. But the whole idea is that we want to have broader and deeper engagement, with physical engagement with the communities, because as our founder explained to me, and I'm fully bought into the idea, and I hope people understand that ISL is much more than just the tournament and the league and the season. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is the pinnacle. This is the very, very top. But ISL is a concept. It's a format. It's the ISL addresses. But that's why I think, I'm coming back to my business angle, I think ISL addresses key issues that swimming has been struggling with. And among them is this issue that swimming is a lonely sport. It's highly individualistic sport. It's something which you cannot enjoy as a team member, as a team. And ISL addresses that. But then, if we believe our own story, it should be appealing to a much broader community, and that's you cannot implement it. You cannot create that broad engagement without actually having a physical base. We want people to understand what ISL competitions are about. And I think with that in mind, we are trying to connect closer to the fans, to the swimmers, to junior swimmers, to senior swimmers, to veterans, to master swimmers, because we want them to understand what ISL is all about, what the ISL format is all about. And going back to your point of geographical and national cultural framework boundaries, there is an element of that. Of course, it's very, very important. But I think we are not we're not dissimilar to football clubs or to soccer clubs. You have Messi playing in Barcelona for years, and for them, he's local. That's the answer to your question, I hope.
That's the answer I was looking for. That's what I was hoping you would say. If we address the elephant in the room, we can look at it a couple different ways. The Olympics, this is the Olympic summer, and it appears as though we're going to have an Olympics. Do you think that it's risky to do the draft now? Because a lot of things happen at the Olympics, and a lot of athletes will retire. They're historically they have. Is that a concern? Has that entered your mind?
What do you think, Thomas?
I mean, it happens. Only time can tell, Mel. We're hoping for the swimmers to have fun competing for the ISL. So yes, many swimmers have retired in the past, right after the Olympics, or maybe a couple of months later. And we understand how much the Olympic Games represent for an athlete. But and this past couple of years, 2020, 2021, have been like an emotional and physical roller coaster. But again, we hope that ISL will provide the athletes and the fans with a great opportunity to compete in our team event and enjoy something that they've enjoyed in the past 2 seasons, and we only want to make it look better and bigger.
Do you have a contingency plan for an athlete who didn't register for the draft, but they decide closer to the season they want to compete? Somebody. Look, I'm a kid and I pop at the Olympic Games, and I'm a young teen. I'm somebody who would be on the bubble to actually participate, but it's like now it's a reality. So how would they be worked into the ISL?
I mean, ISL is famous for being flexible, but at the same time, we need to stick to the rules and the rules that we said. We need to follow the path. If you haven't registered for the draft, for the 2021 draft, which it was until the 31st of May, you cannot be part of ISL 2021. We may or may not. We may have 1 or 2 cases that we might consider exceptional circumstances, but we do intend to follow the rules that we have set. If you take it logically, if you're an athlete that you're expecting to perform at the Olympic Games and there's a deadline, as an athlete, I would take the opportunity, even if I don't do well at the trials or at my qualification competition. So even though we are flexible, we do need to follow the rules that we have set in the past couple of weeks and months, except for those possible very exceptional situations.
We reported on this at SwimSwam as recently as May 28th, and another way to look at ISL's how ISL has been flexible, provided situations that arise, and that's the fifth year senior, the 5th year NCAA eligibility. And the quote was from Constantine, saying that if someone wants to take that 5th year, we will wish them well. We won't hold it against them. Go follow your bliss. And it's that is something that you guys have demonstrated in the past. The timing of this is also very positive with the Olympics. We're on this is going to happen in the heat of the summer, on the run up to the Olympic Games. Did you guys time it that way, or you could have had this sooner in the year? Is it just that we just got it done now? We just got to a point where we could actually launch now.
You want an honest answer? No, I'm just kidding. But look, it's the ISL exists for the swimmers and the fans. For us to create something artificial and then be dogmatic about that, I'm very happy that you brought up the example of NCAA's ruling, and I'm very happy that our response was prompt and it was well understood. We cannot be dogmatic, and we have to take into account the circumstances of swimmers. We struggled with the calendar a lot, and we got a lot of feedback from our fantastic GMs. They're very, very close to the athletes. They were, most of them, not all of them, were extremely successful Olympians. They understand, and they have very, very fresh memories what it's like to go through trials and be focused on preparation. So we moved the dates around to accommodate the schedules of various trials. Of course, have we timed it specifically to be on the coattail of the Olympics? Absolutely not. It's the opposite. We are not the replacement for the Olympics. Sometimes the press and some recent press likes to, sensationalize it a little bit. ISL is swimming reimagined. ISL takes a different look. And as I'll repeat myself, there are some glaring, obvious examples of, let's not call them issues, but challenges that a sport which is enjoyed by hundreds of millions of teenagers gets off the cliff once swimming stops being part of their national curriculum, and they just don't enjoy it as much. So ISL is that, and we want the season. So let's put it this way. You mentioned the bubble last year, and you mentioned that there was a very successful season in Budapest. But I hope it wasn't a scarcity factor. I hope it wasn't just because there were no Olympics that ISL was so successful. The proof is going to be in the pudding at the end of 2021 when season 3 is over. But I hope we will demonstrate, and actually not we, I should take a back seat here. I hope the athletes would demonstrate that ISL format exists on its own merits. That it's not a replacement for the Olympics. It's a different competition. It's a different take on swimming. It's a different take on competing in swimming events. And I hope fans will enjoy it just as much as they enjoyed watching all those records and being broken in Budapest last year.
I was going to ask you if athletes were concerned about going from Olympic trials to the Olympic Games right into ISL, but with 940 names on the list, I think that answers the question. I think that the feedback we've gotten is that this is the most fun that the athletes have had, and they've never felt more cohesion and closer to their peers than during the ISL season. It's been a big hit. For fans, a lot of us are always wondering, wow, they're professional swimmers. What are they making? Everybody wants to know about the dollars and cents. It's in terms of payment, is that going to be, will there ever be a moment where dollar values are made public, not just for the bonuses, but just when the rookies are drafted? So so people can step up and say, well, this is the dollar value for this year, and this is what it's going to look like in 5 years. That's something that's interesting in professional sports.
I think it's a very fair and it's a very good question. But I think I'm just going to go back to my thesis of ISL being sustainable. And I think, as you know, and it's been stated, ISL's principle is that it aims to share, I don't want to put the number and then regret it because it might be misinterpreted, but percentage. But ISL, ISL aims to demonstrate that a first global professional sports league which happens to be swimming league, can exist on its own merits and be financially sustainable. And it can only be financially sustainable if the model works, if our revenues eventually will match our costs, and if swimmers are appropriately compensated, and that's going to be the answer.
Fair enough answer. Is there anything that you guys would like to cover that I haven't covered here? I have a final question, but just in case, because I'm gonna just to let our listeners know we're gonna talk to the GMs, and they're gonna talk to us a little bit about their strategy for the draft. But is there anything else you'd like to cover in this conversation?
I would just only thank you for the support you provide, and really for the forum for us to address our funds. Your SwimSwam is the source for global swimming fans, and really appreciate this opportunity. And I would like to ask our fans to have faith, to support us, and I hope we wouldn't disappoint. I know the athletes will not. That I'm sure of.
So then I'm going to come to. I appreciate that, and I appreciate that message. I think it's a great message to roll into season 3. But now the most important topic and question of this podcast, and I'm going to direct it to Tolas. Tolas, can you explain to me the handle behind Konstantin's name, God of Fin Swimming? Were you listening at the beginning? Before we started recording?
Yeah, I couldn't help it, you know. No, I was not following that far back, Fin Swimming, but I've read a lot. So I think that should be a second name that we should use internally in ISL. So I'm really happy that you mentioned it, Mel. So we're going to make everybody happy on our management team.
I love the name. I think you should keep it forever. It's you explained it. You explained it in the background. Just out of curiosity, I love fin swimming, and I've always felt like I would always. In the United States, a lot of people didn't pay attention to it, but it seemed like it was big internationally, and it was just exciting to watch. So I've always hoped that we would see an exhibition of fin swimming at one of the matches. Is that a possibility?
I don't know how to answer that. I think first of all, just ISL ISL is about swimmers, right? It's not about gods of the past. So I mean, anything is possible. That we're not dogmatic, but let's focus on the stuff we have to do, and then. And then we can dream and have fun about other things.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on. So for the fans out there that are listening, before you sign off, this is going to be going June 22nd and June 29th and June 30th, and you can follow at isl.global. Right now, if you'd like to go to the web, this webpage, isl.global/ISL-draft-registration-final to see all the swimmers who have signed up for the draft. And of course, follow ISL on Instagram at iSwimLeague. I'm Mel Stewart, and this is the SwimSwam podcast.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.